Hi, today in this short video I'd like to show you how to use Kendo UI with .NET Web APIs. You can get Kendo UI by going to www.kendoui.com and clicking the download button. And then you can also get the MVC4RC, which has the web APIs included, from www.asp.NET/MVC/MVC4. Alright, let's get started. I've gone ahead and created a web API project. And in here I have a foo class with just an ID and a name. I've also created a foo controller, and using the scaffolding, it's created a entity framework instance that will allow me to talk to a SQL CE database. And it has all the get, put, post, and delete methods on it. In the global ASAX, I have an initializer that initializes the database with some values. And also to note, I've removed XML formatting, so we'll only get JSON. And just to show off the initializing for the entities, here. Alright, let's go ahead and fire this up and show off that the web service will work. We gotta go to the API route and go to foo. You can see that all the values come back in JSON. Now that we know our web API works, let's go ahead and add Kendo to the project. I've gone ahead and already added Kendo to our style sheets and our scripts. We just need to add them to the layout. So let's go to our layout. We need to add in two of the CSS files, which is the common and any of the others. I'm going to pick the default. You also need to include a certain script, which is the kendo.web.min file. Let's go ahead and save that. And let's go to our index view. Now I have nothing in our index view, but I'm going to start by creating a script tag. And in here we're going to create our data source. The Kendo data source is an abstraction over local and remote data. To find out more about this, you can go to the docs.kendo.ui.com. You can type in data source right here in the search bar. You can click on use data source. You can see how to use it through local and remote data. Now we're going to go down here and copy this code specifically because we're going to be using remote data. Alright, let's change this up for our purposes. So let's go ahead and put our web API in the URL. Get rid of the JSON P and use JSON, and delete this data. We don't need this. We also need to go ahead and define a schema. So I'm going to paste some code in here. Let's go ahead and add a little comma. And our schema is what it is up on the server. It's an ID and a name. Now let's create a grid so we can expose this data. So using jQuery, we're going to select this grid. And then we can use Kendo to bind to it. So let's bind a grid to it. And the grid exposes the property of data source. So let's bind a remote data source to that. Let's also give it a height of about, let's say 500. Finish that, and let's run. And nothing happened. Look at our console. You see the jQuery and Kendo is not defined. Why is that? We go back over to our layout. We should find that jQuery is described below, so let's go ahead and move that back up. Let's rerun this. And you'll see the values coming back down from the web service. Now let's go ahead and add some create functionality to our controls. The transport property also exposes a create. Which in here we're going to say the URL be exactly the same as our other URL. Again, specify the data type as JSON. We also have to specify the type. This is the post type. Next, let's change our ID field to a type of number. After that, the grid has a toolbar property, which is where you can actually create the toolbar buttons. So in here, let's create a new object with a name property of create. This is what tells Kendo to use the create functionality here and put some text in. It says create new foo. And lastly, we have to put a editable field on here. This allows you to either specify the type of pop-up or inline. We're going to use pop-up. Let's go back to our website and let's run. Now they have this create new foo button. Let's click it. Let's add in a purple. Let's do update. And purple's in here. So if we refresh the page, it has saved purple. Now let's add the edit functionality. There's the update property now that we can expose. Essentially the same properties, except we do have to change the type to put. Next we want to go ahead and add some columns to our grid. I'm just going to copy and paste in some code snippet right in here. We have the, like we did before, the ID, the name, but now we have this command edit. So let's go back to our page and run. See, now they have the edit button. Let's click on this and let's make this dark red. Try to update, we get a bad request. If we look at the network, try to make a request just straight to foo. And it says cannot find an ID of nullable type system32. Basically, we never sent out the ID. So unfortunately, we have to make a semi workaround for this, which we're just going to copy and paste this method. It's going to be an override. So we do just accept the type of foo, but now we got to call put foo and explicitly give it the ID. Let's go ahead, run this, make our changes to the server. Let's go ahead and edit again. Do an update. Do we get a bad request? Nope. Let's refresh. And now dark red is saved in the database. And lastly, let's add in destroy. Come into the commands and add in the destroy command. We also need to add a destroy property. Let's change the type to delete. Now we're going to have a similar issue as we did before with put. So we're going to create another method to override this. Take in a foo. And we're going to return a delete foo with explicitly calling the ID. Let's run this again. And now we should be able to delete one of these. Let's go ahead and delete that record. Went through OK. If we look, the record's gone. And this concludes our short video. I'll have this code posted up in GitHub at Learn to Alaric with the Kendo UI web API. Thanks for watching.